Well, Kyle Neddenriep here at the IndyStar and joined by Collin Coffer, the first-year coach at North Central. And Collin, it had been a long time for a victory celebration at North Central. You guys got one last night in a win over Brebeuf, and just I know this is new for you. It's your first game as a coach, but it had been a long time. 32 consecutive losses. Just kind of describe that feeling last night at North Central to get that W.
Yeah, I mean, it was electric atmosphere yesterday. The kids came out. The hallways were buzzing all week. Admin and community support was at an all-time high. And I tell our kids, do not fall for the pageantry and all that type of stuff. Our job is to perform. So don't be overwhelmed with all the tailgates and the all that. We have a job to do, and they went up there and did it. Obviously, we have a lot to work on as a program, from top to bottom, including myself. But to have the outcome we did kind of was really, really, really fun and unique situation, and the community needed it. The fans stormed the field. It was mass chaos out there, but it was well deserved. And also happy for our seniors to get a win, and that's not our football players alone, but the whole senior class to have a victory. Something that they were thanking me for, but it wasn't me. It's my staff. It's the kids buying in, and it's the admin. It's so many different levels to it and layers for that victory to happen yesterday.
A 35-13 victory was the final score last night, North Central over Brebeuf. I knew, Collin, from what you'd said for the preview, you liked what you had up front, with your line, the guys you had returning up there, some experience up front. But I also know you have some skill position guys, including a young quarterback who's a good player in Chase Grove. But how did that game go last night? How were you guys able to kind of take control? And, how did those younger guys play last night?
Yeah, I mean, to be the younger guys per se in terms of the skill positions, they did an admirable job. A lot to still improve on in terms of this decision making, and just we had some busts at some concepts receiver wise, but for the most part they handled the ups and downs of the game. There was some adversity probably for like 6 minutes of the game that it wasn't going our way, and our guys had a 96 yard 8 minute drive, which was impressive to me, to kind of those guys kind of right in the ship. And like I said, it started up front. We have a handful of O-linemen that have played a lot of football for us, and those guys kind of just tightened their jaw, looked at their chin strap, and got to work together. And those guys created some seams for a run game and also had some good protection in the pass. So it was a kind of combination, a little bit of both, but it was good for those guys to have those moments of good and bad to learn from. It's always good to learn after a win, obviously, than a loss, but we'll get back to the drawing board today and get ready to go for HSC.
You mentioned the fan reaction last night. I've been there. They played Warren Central. I want to say it was 2018 in a regional game, and it was electric. Warren Central ended up winning that game. David Bell returned to punt as he normally back when he was kind of dominating high school football, and that kind of broke the back a little bit. But it was a great atmosphere. North Central in the past several years, not really known as a football power, obviously, but I always think the excitement for football season kind of coincides with the start of a new school year, and obviously some good vibes going there. And I know you said not to get caught up. You're telling your kids not to get caught up in the pageantry of it, but what does this do for your momentum and just kind of getting people excited about North Central football again?
Yeah, it just allows us to build upon it. Like most of our staff, we don't know otherwise, but we know it's important. So for our kids, it's the next game next week, us versus us, until we play. Make sure we have a really, really good Saturday, which we did. We had a really good film session. We had treatment. We had yoga. We did all those things to get our bodies back, and now we'll get back to the drawing board with a clean slate to build off of that. But as a whole, I mean, it was just a very cool atmosphere. I mean, the kids are bought in. Obviously, change is always pushback at first, and there still is some. I mean, it's a program shift. It's not just I have probably 80% of the kids and 80% of the community, 80% of the admin. There's some people that still will be in doubt, which is fine with me. It's not my job to worry about them. But our job is to do what we do best and perform well and put a product on the field that people can be proud of here close to home, alumni, and et cetera.
Collin, you have an experience. You have experience coaching at the college level. What is that? What did that experience do for you, kind of as you come into the high school job? And I guess for people who are curious, what are the differences coaching from college to high school, or what have you found to be the
Yeah,
differences so far?
golly, in college, I kind of made my way around there, dang near every school in Indiana in the college ranks. So I've been bounced around a whole bunch. But you you have to do so many different type of jobs, from video coordinator to equipment coordinator to recruiting to passing coordinator to travel. I mean, at the smaller levels, the D2s at UIndy, I did all those different roles, and I was asked to do those and put in those positions, which was a blessing to me at the time. Same thing at Indiana State and Ball State, everywhere I've been, you get different tasks that you're assigned with, and then coming with a head coach now, you have to be able to do all of those and then balance and delegate as you see fit, to make sure the program's ran the right way that you want it to. So having those roles back then allowed me to be not so overwhelmed with all the things that happen as a head coach from a 6A program. I mean, we have 4,000 kids, so this is a mini college. So it's not like it's too far off from that. The kids themselves are resilient like they are in college, but we don't get to pick and choose our kids in high school. They're in a district, they come here, you coach them. So that'll be one thing that's different. One less day in the week to prepare is different, right? So having a very concise plan that you can run full speed with is critical. Meeting times is not as vast as you had in college as well. So being very precise in that, and um, teaching our guys how to meet, was supposed to feel like to being a meeting, and how we can apply that to the field. And those are things that I brought to the high school ranks with our guys, which was new to them. But at the same time, they come ready to work. But teaching them every day of the IQ of the game, different situational, different things that we have to do that you assume that they might know, they don't. So just making our staff aware of how we have to really be very thoughtful and intentional in terms of what we put in and how, and give these young men the best chance to be successful by giving them examples of what's supposed to feel like and look like as well.
I know for a 6A coach too, it's a lot of this is delegating and kind of you're running. It's almost like college being a head coach. You kind of a bit of a CEO, and some maybe not to that aspect of like a Big Ten coach, but you are overseeing a lot of kids. Like you said, 4,000 kids are in the school, so it's a big program. But how has that been for you to kind of dive into that as a young coach, and what are you learning, I guess, or what are you kind of learning as you go here? What do you feel like maybe you got to learn as you're moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. I would say that um, pretty humbly in that I learned a lot to learn, but I have a really, really, really unique, fun staff that are great men and mentors that have helped me. I'm not too prideful to ask questions. And I have a lot of mentors in the college ranks and elsewhere as well that I lean on for different things, just to make sure I'm on the right track. Because you never know till you know. And so those guys will give me that type of reassurance of how to operate certain things. And then this is the pulse of the team. Like, I try to reevaluate where we're at, and then make it the most detailed and precise decision for where we're at the program, without thinking too far ahead. And that's allowed me to have some success. I obviously success yesterday, but it's always a changing mindset in terms of the schedule within reason. But communicating that with the team and our guys on the staff has been really good. Just be on the same page. That's the biggest thing. Just with the staff too, just pouring into them. I'm a big person of the phrase "lead with love." If the kids don't know you trust them and they love you and you love them, your staff as well. It's kind of hard to have those hard conversations. And our staff pours into our kids like I pour into our staff, and vice versa. So it makes it for a really, really fun, unique atmosphere to be around, and our kids can feel the unity we have as a staff. We're able to have really hard conversations, not always going to be of a agreement, but arguing to perfect what we need to do and for the kids. And that's the first and last decision is what do the kids need from us as adults. So we've been able to do that week one. A lot of things we have to clean up though. As a head coach, you don't sleep a whole bunch because you're thinking about what's to do next. But we were able to enjoy this one for 24 hours and now on to the next game.
And to that point, that's great points. You building trust, I think, is what all good coaches are able to do with their kids, and certainly, that's priority one for you there. But like you said, Collin, it's you got a gauntlet here ahead of you. You got HSE this week. I saw Warren last night. They're a very good team. Kind of a younger or inexperienced. At 19 starters are new this year, but they're going to be a handful. And then Lawrence North week 4. So you got quite a gauntlet right ahead of you here. And like you said, it's win one. It's a starting point, but how do you get ready for HSC now? How quickly do you kind of turn the page and look at what the Royals have?
Yeah, the page has been turned since noon today. We had our JV and freshman went. They did their thing this morning, and then we're never on to the next. So we'll meet tomorrow morning as a staff and kind of go through game plan stuff that we want to do, and then from there we'll have a concise plan throughout the week to make sure we get every phase we need to get in. But it is a gauntlet, and that's why I chose to go for this job, and I'm glad I got it. Blessed that I have this job and the opportunity, because you want to play against the best. And the MIC has been a perennial powerhouse for so long. I played in it and back in the day myself, so I know how physical it is. And the game's a one up front on both sides of the ball, and you have to have a really, really good scheme and a good staff, like all these schools do, to perform well. So 1 week at a time, though. I'm not looking too far ahead besides week 2. So those week 3 plus games, they will be there when they get there. I'm not going to sit there and rush the future. But just having our kids believe and make those changes on Monday that we need to make, and then have the great game plan so we can have a great product on Friday against a really, really good HSC team that's coached really well with Coach Kelly. A lot of respect for him and his program, having done things for so long. So it's going to be a fun game next Friday.
And that'll be another home game from North Central against HSC. And then first road game will be the following week at Warren Central. So, again, Collin Coffer, thanks for coming on here, Collin. I just wanted to I know you got a youngster sleeping there, so you got a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta get the kiddos down for their noon nap, so they're knocked out, so it's good.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And I was going to ask you too, what is your phone been like in the aftermath of this win? Are you hearing from a lot of North Central?
Yeah, a vast array of people. A lot of college colleagues of mine and old friends reached out. I probably had 120 text messages within the game ending. I got a water bath after the game, so my phone wasn't on my person for a minute there. But when I got it back, it was it's pretty cool just for people to reach out that really care for you and are invested and want to see you be successful. And like I said, I told our staff, like, everybody's on our side right now because we're winning, but we have to make sure we have that same mindset and continue to have that same resolve, good, better, and different, because that's what our kids deserve. So we'll make sure we give our best efforts in that.
Awesome. Look forward to talking to you down the road. Again, Collin Coffer, the North Central coach, 1-0 after week 1, a win over Brebeuf Jesuit, 35-13 last night. And best of luck the rest of the way, Collin. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You bet. Well, appreciate Coach Coffer coming on with us today. I wanted to also have another interview on the back side of this with Anthony Coellner from Carmel, quarterback from Carmel. But just to break this up a little bit, I wrote some snap judgments, which is something new we're going to be doing probably on Sundays, Sunday mornings, just kind of snap judgments from the first week, and then moving forward from, throughout the season. But, so you can check those out there. You ran this Sunday morning at IndyStar.com, but just to kind of run through those quickly, I wrote about Keon Thomas from Warren Central. Thought he was phenomenal. Running back, junior, about 6 foot, 210 pounds. Had offers from IU, Purdue from the spring, and then several others that have come in on him. Starting at the MAC, a lot of MAC schools, but I thought he was phenomenal running. I think he ended up with 120 yards. Kind of had him for 111, but I think it was actually 120 total on 22 carries against Center Grove. And kind of sounds weird to write about or to talk about a individual performance on a team that only scored 6 points, but he was really, really good. I think he's going to be a phenomenal running back for Warren these next 2 years. I can't wait to see what he does next. But yeah, just strong, physical, finishes off his runs. That's the impressive thing I like about running backs, when they're kind of always falling forward and kind of carrying the pile. And that was definitely what he was doing against a really good defense. And Eric Moore, said good things about him after the game too, from the standpoint of giving their defense all they could handle. So, but yeah, I wrote about him, and I'll have a little bit more actually on him on Monday. If you see that might be out already. And then, Carmel, we'll talk to Anthony a little bit more about that. Carmel, huge performance and a win over Fishers. Definitely turning some heads in Kevin Wright's first game as coach. But yeah, we'll touch more on that in a minute. A big win for Indiana high school football. I think if you're a Brownsburg fan, obviously you're thrilled with their win over Archbishop Spalding on Friday night, 36-23. Over a nationally ranked team. Both teams ranked in the top 50. Archbishop Spalding was 35 by High School Football America, Brownsburg 49. So whatever national rankings you're looking at, they were both ranked pretty high. But to me, a win for Brownsburg is a win for Indiana high school football. That should kind of pull up the rest of the group, based on that performance against an out-of-state program. So that's really good. I mean, that's kind of what you're rooting for, even if you're a Westfield or Center Grove or Carmel fan or whatever. I think you can take some pride in that, and it kind of puts a good spotlight on the football in the state here, which is great. And it's been trending that direction obviously for a few years. But anything that happens along those lines, to beat a national program like that is very, very cool, very good for the spotlight of Indiana high school football. Next was the Avon pulled off one of the big games, the overtime win over Decatur, 30-28. Just touched on that. They were down 22-7 midway through the fourth quarter. So Decatur, coming off that 5A title, ranked in the top 10 in 6A. And the Orioles are, they're going to have some real momentum going into the game next week at Ben Davis, if I can spit that out. But Ben Davis, they beat last year. So they, have some experience recently of winning that rivalry game. So that's a big win. And the first opening win for Avon since 2019. So that's, something, losing that first game sometimes can be a real downer and send you the other direction. This should kind of help them get going. And they have a tough schedule upcoming. You have BD, HSE, and Brownsburg the next 3 weeks. So you get that first win. You start somewhere. Bishop Chittard beating Lafayette Jeff. That was a game they trailed late, 28-21. Going into the fourth quarter, Danny Adams had a huge game. He had a 61-yard touchdown run to tie it. He'll be one of the player of the week. I don't have his stats right in front of me now, but he had a great game. And they were playing without Jack Harrington, who should be back for week 3 against Roncalli. So Harrison Odom came in and played quarterback, did well for Chittard. So that's a good win. Chittard ranked number 1 in 4A, but Jeff a top 10 team in 5A. So that's a quality victory in the home opener. Touched on the 3-0 game, Roncalli and Dwenger. You don't see that score very often anymore. The way football is with spread offenses and things like that. That was a low scoring game. Gavin Louthane hit the game-winning field goal with about midway through the fourth quarter. Just 16 first downs in this game total, 6 turnovers, but 3 of those were interceptions by Roncalli's defense. So, in the last one by Luke Baker helped set up that game-winning field goal. Dwenger, I know, is going to be good this year. They were ranked number 9 in 4A, Roncalli 6 in 4A, so a top 10 game there. I mentioned North Central as well. You just heard from Coach Coffer, so I won't go into that again in great detail, but definitely an eye-opener to get that first win in 32 game losing streak. So to get that first one, as you heard him say, their schedule and is very daunting as well upcoming with HSE Warren and Lawrence North. But you can only get to 1-0 in your first week, and they did that. So that's a good start, obviously. Low scoring games again. Cathedral BD 8-0. Didn't really expect that score from that game. The Giants are young in a lot of areas, and I think they feel good about their team. Russ Mann feels good about his team, and what they've got. I mean, just a lot of inexperience. Their quarterbacks are very young, and Cathedral took advantage, intercepting 4 passes in that game. BD only had 53 rushing yards as well. So Cathedral very good. They're going to be a handful for sure, and I think a team that'll continue to get better throughout the season as well. So ranked number 2 in 5A. They actually had a couple chances to, score more than 8 and weren't able to. So, but I think a pretty, as 8-0 scores go, that was a fairly decisive win for Cathedral. Had to feel good about that. I think if you're a Cathedral fan going into week 2. Win number 1 for Jake Chesney for Sheridan. The Blackhawks beat Greenwood Christian, came back in that game. They were down by 17 points in the third, won 32-29. First win for Chesney. He actually coached. He filled in last year a little bit when Bud Wright was out, but technically his first victory and the first win. It's crazy to think about since Ken Freeman coached Sheridan in 1965, before Bud Wright took over and won 463 of his 464 games of his career. So that's just crazy to think about. That's my math is bad. Was it 60 years ago? Was the last time a coach not Bud Wright coached the Blackhawks. And then my last one was the Flags at Friday night. It was just, man, it was like a flag fest. 21 combined flags in my game for 146 yards. I mean, I've seen games with more flags, but man, it just felt like a lot, and a lot of just things I think that are week 1 mistakes that should be cleaned up, like just false starts or just weird things. I actually saw. I was watching the Hawaii Stanford game last night, and there was a flag for a excessive celebration by one of the Stanford players, and and they said he's a Yale transfer to Stanford, so couldn't have been a smarter guy who gets dinged for he sacked the quarterback and got flagged for a dance he was doing. So maybe it's just first week, everybody learns and we move on with our lives, and it's better from here out. I hope so, because it's going to be some long nights if we don't cut down on the flags a little bit. So again, not 21 for 146. It felt like more than that, but it slowed things down. It felt like, and just some things that they weren't just holding calls, they were false starts and things like that. So hopefully that stuff gets cleaned up and we have a little bit cleaner football the next going into week 2. But yeah, overall, pretty good tonight, and I'll get into some other stuff, what to look forward to at the end of the after I talk to Anthony here. But yeah, I just want to touch on those and mention those snap judgments. We'll be running those at least for the next few weeks on Sundays, most likely. So look for those, and then enjoy my interview upcoming here with Anthony Coellner from Carmel. Well, as I alluded to earlier, Anthony Coellner from Carmel, the senior quarterback and Troy commit, joins us now. And one of the big stories, Anthony, from Friday night was certainly your victory over Fishers, 49-24, and I think caught a lot of people's attention. I was getting some texts from people who were there, and it sounded like the offense went about as well as it could possibly go with what you guys did. But just, I guess, going into it, Anthony, what were your expectations and what worked for you guys? I mean, what was kind of the vibe on the offensive side Friday?
Really, just going into the game, sticking to the game plan. We're very up tempo. A lot of just basic plays. Just we're trying to do our stuff better than the other team and just execute better. Like inside zone, taking a few shot plays. I feel like we hit on all of our shot plays and we were running the ball really well. So I feel like, if we come in doing that, then we're gonna do really good this upcoming season.
I know from talking to you in the preseason, you expected a lot out of yourself, and you were confident in the offensive potential and output. But I guess, is there some kind of, you go into the first week maybe still not knowing for sure what you had, or because at the end of the day, everybody's, the scrimmage, you're not necessarily keeping score, like you would in a first game. But did you have some curiosity about what it would look like?
Yeah, definitely after the scrimmage, we were definitely a little curious. We tried not to show that much, and the scrimmage went well defensively. Offensively, I still felt like there was a long way to go. I was very proud of the team and how they played and how we came out and they scored first, and we punched right back, and they scored again, and we punched right back again. So I was very proud of how the team responded to adversity. And you can't really deal with adversity during the off season and in practice and stuff like that. And that's kind of like something you have to deal with in your first game. So I'm very proud of the way like the team responded to that.
And this is Kevin Wright's first game. I should have mentioned that. First game as coach back at Carmel for the first time in 11 years. And I know from, he's very much an offensive guy. He's, I'm sure, has his fingerprints all over what you're doing personally at the quarterback spot. Just from your perspective, what has been for you, how much difference is there? Not trying to say it was bad or whatever before, but just from your sense, what has changed for you as a quarterback? What have you learned from Coach Wright in these months you've been with him?
I've learned that the details definitely matter. It's definitely more of a detail-oriented offense, and really just he's done a great job just keeping it very simple. Like I said earlier, just trying to have us execute better than the other team and do what we do best. So, I mean, he's kept it very simple, and he's been heavy on working on like the reads with me, and he's been crucial to my gameplay.
Anthony Coellner again joining me, the senior quarterback for Carmel, and you had 108 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, and then also 11 for 15 through the air, 200 yards and 1 touchdown. Dominic Shockley had a big game, no touchdowns, but he had 100 yards receiving and 4 catches. Jacob Bellin had a touchdown catch, a 30-yard or 54 yards total for him on the night. And then, your running game overall was really, even as much offense as you had passing. I mean, 339 yards of rushing. Just, how nice is that as a quarterback when you got the ability to run the ball in that opener to kind of open things up through the pass?
Yeah, I feel like if you look at the college or NFL level, the best teams run the football really well, and that's really going to open everything up for you from the passing game to taking those deep shots to Shockley and Bellin and Sell. I just feel like we did a great job running the football up front. The offensive line played a very perfect game, and the running backs ran hard. So it was a great game. Yeah.
The offensive line, Anthony, how you not a ton of experience from last year there, but how do you feel about that group overall, and what they had to feel good, I'm sure, Saturday morning with what you guys did in the run game?
Yeah, I feel like the sky's the limit for that group. Like you said, I think we had one returning player who's ever started a varsity game. So, I mean, a lot of inexperience, but they didn't show that on Friday. They acted like they've been there and done that. And like you said, over 300 rushing yards on the ground from a group that's never really played together and never played at the varsity level. I just feel like that's very impressive, and um, this team's gonna go as far as they take us, and I'm very excited.
Well, the challenge gets, ultimately a lot tougher this week. And I know, Westfield was a game last year. I was there for it, both days. I guess as you put it, it was a 2-day game because of the weird weather we had on Friday night. You had to come back, play Saturday. Yeah, I look back at that game, that Friday night portion. I felt like you guys were, had the upper hand. It wasn't quite halftime yet, and then you come back on Saturday. Obviously, Westfield wins the game. Kind of just a weird, game overall. But you look at this game, Anthony. I know you're still planning and getting ready for it on Friday, and but just how big is this? It's a home opener for you guys. What are you kind of looking for on Friday night from your group?
I feel like we set the tone last Friday, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of fans, and I feel like everyone's really bought in right now, and they're all going to be at the game on Friday, which is what I'm excited for. And now it's just continuing to build on the momentum that we've built last week, and really just offensively, defensively get better, because there were still mistakes on Friday, and I'm super excited. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to play against one of the top teams in the state. We have a pretty good rivalry going right now, so I'm pretty excited.
Should be a great crowd, and from a player's perspective, how weird was that game last year? Because you came back and played. I think it was like a 5 o'clock restart on the next day. But what was that like? Going through all that last year. I'm sure you probably thought you might come out and play after the delay on that Friday, but
Yeah.
eventually it got worse. I was sitting in my car writing some stuff, and it did get a lot worse later, right around the stadium. So it's probably good they didn't play it, but just
Yeah.
a strange thing.
Yeah, it was a strange night. I feel like it kind of sucked because we built up a lot of momentum in that first quarter and into the second. And, whenever you have momentum in a game, I mean, that's going to take you super far. And, that's what you're looking to get. And I feel like we kind of lost that all coming into day two. And, you had to basically start from scratch and try and rebuild it up all over again. And we really didn't get clicking until the fourth quarter. And by then, we kind of ran out of time there at the end. But I feel like this year, let's pray for some great weather, and hopefully this is one of the best games of the year.
I'm with you on that. I'd like to watch some college football on Saturday and not go
Me
back to
too.
the same game again. So
Hmm.
I'm with you there. But wanted to ask you too about your recruiting. You ended up committing to Troy. Just what led into that, Anthony? What did you like about their program? And what's the situation look like there at the quarterback spot?
Yeah, really, it's just the coaching staff, just the brotherhood that they have over there. That really led me to commit. Coach Sean Reagan was the offensive coordinator at West Virginia when he offered me there, and he decided to go back home to Troy. So I've had a great relationship with him for a couple of years. And head coach Jared Parker was the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. So they have a lot of elite knowledge in the football aspect, and they're just great men besides that. And I feel like it's a great spot for me to come in and earn my stripes and be able to play. Like you said, I think they have a senior quarterback this year, but he could take his red shirt next year. So they're kind of just trying to see what's going on there. But I feel like I'm in a great spot to, come in and compete and earn that starting job.
And as the portal goes, it's kind of year to year anymore with guys moving around, so you don't fully know, I'm sure, going into it. But
Exactly.
sounds like a great opportunity for you, and it should be. You got that stuff settled now, so you can just play some football your senior year, right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Well, good. Well, looking forward to Friday night. And what's I was going to ask Jim Inskeep about this, but what's the stadium situation look like? Can you fit everybody in there on Friday with the renovations?
Yeah, I think there is like a max capacity. I forget what that number is. I think it's like 6,000 people. But basically, the top part of the stadium is going to be blocked, like fenced off because it's still getting worked on. But there's additional seating behind the end zone. That's for students and uh, patrons. And I feel like it's going to be more of like a bowl feel, which, might end up being even better because it's going to bring the fans closer to the field. You're going to hear a lot more of the noise. You're going to feel a lot more of the energy. So I'm super excited.
Me too. I can't wait for Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Anthony Coellner from Carmel, senior quarterback, and coming off a 49-24 win over Fishers in the season opener. And we'll see what happens on Friday. Should be a great atmosphere. I'm glad this game is on the schedule. It's I think going to be a good game every year from here on out. With the proximity of the two schools, and just kind of lends itself to being a fun rivalry. But Anthony, look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks, Anthony, for coming on and joining me here. And, it should be a great game, great atmosphere. Westfield Carmel, like I said, kind of lends itself to a great atmosphere. Those teams in basketball have had some great matchups with huge crowds. And I think kind of, the fans want to see those games. And obviously that's going to be a game I think we'll see happen more on the football field, including this Friday. So, again, thanks to Anthony for joining me here. And Coach Coffer as well from North Central. Just quickly wanted to touch on it, looking ahead, including that game. Do have some really good games on the schedule. Obviously, pretty much every week we do, but week 2 is always a fun. It seems like there are some common games that we see year in and year out, and then some different ones. Roncalli Franklin Central, one that we normally see, that should be a good game. Both those teams 1-0 coming off week 1 wins. Roncalli won 3-0 over Fort Wayne Dwenger. Franklin Central had a little bit easier of a game in their opener against Perry Meridian. But looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. Fishers Lawrence North. I mentioned Fishers had lost to Carmel when I was talking to Anthony, but Lawrence North 1-0. They beat Lawrence Central 34-27 in week 1. That's always a close game. I mentioned the Avon Ben Davis game. That'll be coming up this week. IHSAA North Central, mentioned that with Coach Coffer there at the beginning. Both those teams 1-0. Zionsville and Lawrence Central. Zionsville 1-0. They beat Pike 27-7. Handled the Red Devils in the opener, and then LC coming off that close loss to LN. Cascade and Danville, that should be a lot of fun. Danville lost a close game to Gibson Southern, very highly ranked 3A team, ranked 3rd in 3A. So Danville lost by a touchdown, but I think going to be a really good team in 4A this season. And Cascade 1-0. They handled Monrovia in the opener. So this is a good Hendricks County game. Great test for Cascade. I'm glad this game is on the schedule. I think it can only help. Cascade playing a little bit bigger school, but getting a chance to kind of see where they're at before they get into the Monon Conference. Their conference games, might not be as tough. They do play, North Putnam, which has been a pretty good program over the years. Down the road, they'll play Western Boone. That'll be the last game of the regular season. But this might be a bit of a challenge that, kind of heads into conference play for Connor Simmons' team. But yeah, and then at top, Westfield, Carmel should be phenomenal. And then Cathedral at Brownsburg. Brownsburg coming off a, big win over Spalding out of Maryland, and then Cathedral that win over Ben Davis. So Brownsburg won this game last year. Again, this was the week 2 was weird. Brownsburg had to come back and play Cathedral. Actually, I think they kept playing that game that night. That was one that they came back and played because where they were playing at Marion, and I don't think they were getting quite the storm earlier in the night. So Brownsburg did. I can't remember exactly for sure how that went, if they came back and played the next day or what, but they did beat Cathedral last year. It was 30-14. That result was. So we'll see. That one should be good or interesting to see what happens. Center Grove, Fort Wayne, Carroll. Carroll lost their opener. They're 0-1. They've been a team that has come down and played. I think it's been good for the program. They've been playing some teams around here more. Played HSC again last week. They lost 14-7 at HSC, and then we'll host Center Grove this week. So that will be, I think, a challenge for Center Grove. I'm curious to see where the Center Grove team, how they look, how Oscar Sloan looks in week 2, and just how their team looks in general going into, some of the tougher games on their schedule. Also, New Pal Decatur Central should be a great game. And a test for Decatur. They're coming off that tough loss to Avon, where they had the lead, lost it, and then lost in overtime. So they're coming off that loss, and the New Pal absolutely took it to Kokomo, which we expected to be a little bit down this year, and it was 52-0. One of those games where I think New Pal, I could have scored even more, but no point in that. So yes, that'll be a good one. This game last year was also one that didn't finish at all. It was 21-all at halftime. Both teams ended up going on to win state titles. Decatur in 5A, New Pal in 4A, and now both teams have moved up class. So should be, again, a very interesting result in that one. And I think New Pal, they're absolutely loaded. Decatur is too. I think there's areas where Decatur can give them trouble. And I wouldn't, I would definitely credit Decatur for playing Avon, playing 6A team, getting them on schedule, then playing New Pal. So I think they're only going to be better for playing these games as they get into the 6A, getting ready to play the 6A tournament for the first time. So, but yeah, we'll see. Like I said, there's other games on the schedule. Those are some of the highlighted ones. I won't go on here forever, but appreciate the guests for joining me and taking part of their weekend to be part of it. And we'll be doing these videos more often into the season. And I have a light here I'm using that hopefully will, this is not, it's kind of a makeshift. I'm going to get a better, this lighting in this office is just not very good. So I apologize for that. Hopefully that's not a huge deal, but we'll get a ring light for the computer that should hopefully make this a little bit easier to see things. But yeah, anyway, thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you next time, and have a great week ahead of the week 2 football schedule. Thank you.